Hi, welcome back to Season 4 of the Tummy Team Journey. I am Kelly Dean, physical therapist and founder of the Tummy Team, and I'm your host. This is the podcast where we talk about how investing in your functional core and pelvic floor strength can actually change your life. So let's get started. Hi, everybody. This is Kelly Dean. Welcome back to the Tummy Team Journey podcast. And I'm super excited to have an online client with us today who is also a family physician. So I want to introduce Dr. Hilary Frescoln. And she lives in Missouri, and she has been an online client with me for quite some time, working on some of her own stuff, but also we have lots of fun conversations about, the patients she sees as well. And I'm excited to have you here. So thanks for coming, Hilary. Thanks for sharing your story. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you. So my name is Hilary. I have 7 beautiful kiddos. We homeschool. I am a family medicine physician. I work part-time, so I just work a couple of afternoons a week. So we're able to just be home in the mornings and help the kids through school stuff. And I love all things Kelly has done. I've told her before, I'm one of her biggest fans. I tell a lot of my patients about her resources and highly recommend everything that she has to offer. She does a fabulous job, and I'm so thankful she's put together this resource.
Yeah. Well, do you remember, it's been a while. Do you remember when you first heard about the Tummy Team and what was going on in your body when you started like looking for answers and how you got
Sure.
connected?
Yes. So I wanted to kind of do a little quick overview of our birth history. So my first baby was right in residency after medical school, and that was a long labor. But by the time I went to the hospital, because I really kind of wanted to be home as much as possible, then I delivered about 45 minutes later. I went from 4 centimeters to complete. The doctor didn't make it in for that delivery. And then our second baby, we had an underwater birth in the hospital. So that was kind of unique. We had a midwife in the hospital do that. And then our third baby was the same thing. Doctor didn't make it. I was there for 21 minutes, had the baby, and it was just the nurse and my husband and I. And she said, "Okay, go ahead and push." And I said, "No, I'm just going to breathe my baby out." And she was talking later like, "Wow, I've never seen that before." But that, not doing the pushing, but just kind of breathing. And then our fourth baby, I actually had all by myself because my husband and I went to the ER. It was after hours. And I went around the corner because I felt like I was getting pretty close. And so he was in the line and he said, "Do I need to stand in this line?" And my wife's having a baby, and they're like, "Yes." So I went into the bathroom and I felt like, wow, I feel like I'm going to have this baby. So I unlocked the door. I just laid down on the floor, had Aristarchus. I kind of patted him up, pulled my shorts up. I opened the door. It had been about 3 minutes that my husband and I were apart. And I said, "Joe Freskin." And he said, "I knew you'd have the baby because you wouldn't need me for any other reason." He comes around the corner and he says, "What do you need?" Just very calmly. And I said, "Look, we got our baby." So he said, I said, "Just bring me some towels and a gown." And so he goes back in the line and he's like, "My wife just had a baby around the corner." And so anyway, that was kind of a fun story. And then our twins were our 5th and 6th baby, and we live 90 miles from the hospital. And so my water broke. And in 90 minutes, I had those babies. So, I came in crowning and I said, "I'm crowning." They just wheeled me right into the surgical suite because with twins, they want to have you just in case you need a C-section. My husband's putting on the booties and he misses the first delivery. And then both babies were head down. So the second baby then was like, "Oh, look at all this room." And so he flipped. So then they did a breech extraction on him. And then my 7th baby, we just were in the hospital. It was the nurse, the doctor, my husband, and I. It was 12 minutes that they were waiting for me. And I was like, this is so weird. Everybody's just waiting for me to have a baby. I've never had this experience. They're just staring at me waiting. And so anyway, it was another beautiful delivery, but we've kind of had some fun, crazy deliveries. But
I'm surprised you didn't just do home births at this point.
Obviously I deliver pretty easy, but my medical sense, things do not go wrong. But when they do, you want backup. And so yes, I decided the best way to have a baby is in the bathroom of the hospital because you're all by yourself there. And in case you need backup, you just go right down, but you can do whatever you want. So anyway, I wouldn't recommend that, but it is very inexpensive. They really cut a lot. But yeah, I do love home birth, but I know too much
Yeah.
to feel
I hear
comfortable with that. So yeah, that's why I
you.
like the both.
And you're not close to the hospital. So like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but really, so in between there, I would say after our third baby that well, I'll jump back. Actually, in college, I was a college athlete and I played volleyball. And I had an injury where I was just reaching for a ball and just kind of threw my back out. Had a lot of SI joint instability, a lot of pain, couldn't play for about a week. Ever after that, I continued a couple of times a year, a couple of weeks a year, just to have something where I did a small movement that then I was kind of incapacitated. So I had kind of been dealing with that all along. And that's something that I really want to emphasize. I was probably in the best shape of my life while I was doing, I was weightlifting, I was doing crunches all the time, all that, ab work and things, and running every day. And yet I wasn't functionally using my core. I even remember we were doing some drills, and afterwards, one of my friends said to me, "Man, my abs are so sore after that." It's like, really? Mine weren't, because I was using the muscles that were strong and compensating with those muscles. But I obviously wasn't. I look back now and I think even then I wasn't functionally using my core. And so I continued to kind of have some issues. And then with mostly just with kind of back pain, SI joint instability. And then after our third kiddo is when I found you. I was doing a lot of core work. I probably went through 4 different programs. And so I'm not going to name their names, but I'll say Kelly's the best. Tummy Team is the best out there. I have tried a lot of different things. I did find Beth Learn Fit to Be. A lot of people find you through her.
Mhm.
But the difference with what you do is that it is a lifestyle. And so I'm always telling my patients, you cannot, with 1 hour of exercise, you cannot undo 16 hours of poor alignment, and the things that you're doing all day long. You can't undo it all. So what you teach is that this is a way of living. You're stretching as you go through doorways, your long, lean, and lifted posture when you're cooking. So it's really about the things that you're doing all day long. So obviously, I wasn't doing those things. Once I really took your course, I did have a diastasis. I had a 3 centimeter or 3 finger diastasis. With my third kiddo. After the twins, I actually had a 4. But I did splint through that pregnancy with the twins and with my 4th pregnancy. And my friends have said, after I had done your program, that with my twins, I actually looked better. I was carrying better than I was even with my third pregnancy, because I was doing what I needed to be doing. Now, it was still hard. And then, so ultimately, we had 5 kids that were 6 and under. So 5 kids in 6 years. So all those parenting postures that you like to talk about, you got a baby on your hip and you're trying to untrain yourself from doing things. And so I still continued. It wasn't perfect. I feel like now, my youngest is 5. I've been integrating this for 11, 12 years. I'm definitely stronger, probably even than I was. So I was working out with my 17-year-old, almost 17-year-old last week. And he said, "Mama," he said, do you just have like supernatural strength?" Because I was doing some core work that he wasn't able to do, even though he plays soccer, because I've been doing it for so long. It wasn't like, it was just stability stuff. And it's stuff that I've learned from you. So that's the other thing you always kind of ask at the end, like, what do you wish you'd learned earlier? So I was seeking answers all along. Like, I just came across this book I had the other day, and it was a core, like, kind of fix your core book. And the exercises in there, a lot of them I was looking at were similar to kind of what you had told me. But what I was doing when I would do stuff like that is I was using the muscles that were not designed to be used. So I was using my back muscles and compensating because I wasn't activating my core. I wasn't engaged to it. I didn't know how to make that kind of mind body connection and use those muscles. So I would use the other muscles that weren't ever designed to provide stability with the back. And then I would hurt my back. And so then you kind of feel like giving up because you've done the thing that's supposed to help you. You've done what you thought was core work, but you used your back in order to do it, and then you end up worse than you started, and so it can feel a little bit frustrating. So yeah, definitely I would say that you have a unique perspective in that you teach people how to connect to the core, how to activate it all day long, how to engage your core when you're sweeping and when you're doing the unloading the dishwasher, and obviously when you're lifting and other things. But that's really the secret sauce, is in that mind body connection where you're engaging the muscle. One of the things that you say that I love, that I tell a lot of patients is, we were designed to have a strong functional core. Instead, most of us have this, slump slouch position all day long. And so a muscle that's supposed to be strong is now like a, deflated balloon. It's a great word picture. Kelly, you
Yeah.
do a great job with pictures to help kind of patients understand. And so as long as you're using that all day long, that's getting stronger and stronger. And so it does feel fatiguing and tiring when you just sit there and try to use it for a few minutes. I tell my son that too, because he does a lot of, he loves to compose. And so he has some issues kind of with like more of a rounded posture. And so I'll say it is fatiguing because you have to get that muscle strong again. So anyway, long answer, but
So
yes, definitely love the work that you're doing, and the functional integrate into your lifestyle type of work.
And I love how you called it the secret sauce because everybody's looking for you know, like a magical answer. And it sometimes the things I suggest to people seem simpler than they think it needs to be, but simple isn't always easy. You still have to do it. If sitting up tall was easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Mhm.
It's not easy. So we've kind of always equated everything to being what needs to be done in a gym or with a set of weights, and your core was really made to help you do all the stuff you have to do all day long. So why not use it when you do all the stuff you do all day long? And at first it makes you think a lot, but then it becomes kind of natural. And you only have to think some of the time when you're fatigued or busy or you've been doing something for a long time. But I've had similar experiences. I coach a high school swim team, and these kids are in far better shape than I am. But I will show them some exercises to do on a stability ball, or even I have them do handstands against the wall, and I'm in my mid 50s and I'm doing stuff that these 16-year-old boys can't do, and it's because of that it's because of that core strength that really connects my body. So I think the magic sauce, if we want to say it, are two things. It's the connection. You have to feel the right muscle. You have to slow down and feel the right muscles. And then you have to use it throughout your day. Like, it's the combination of getting connected and then integrating. And there are some exercises, right, that help you get there. And there's some stretches and there's some strategies along the way. But those are like the magical components, if you want to call them magical. Did you so if you started so long ago that our platform was online courses at the time. So do you remember what course did you do? Core Foundations?
I did.
Or
I did.
yeah,
Yep. And so your platform now is where you can kind of go in and go in the direction that you need. And so I'm always telling patients, because it used to be a little bit more of a hurdle, I think, financially, for people to, even though compared to one physical therapy appointment, the online part of it is actually so good because you can rewatch those videos. You go and you see an in-person PT, which is great. And I always recommend people see in person. And I know you do too. but you cannot capture all of that and retain that and integrate that. Whereas you can try a little bit, you go back and you listen to it, you hear what you need to hear now because you're in a different place than you were last month when you were doing it. So I love the online part piece of it. But yes, I did core foundations, and then I did the functional where you talked about kind of integrating everything. I don't remember.
Integration, which we now call,
Yes.
we've updated and it's called functional core now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
fabulous. That's so
Did you do
fabulous.
did you do Core Smart Fitness as well?
I did.
Yes,
I did the
yes.
core start. I think I did everything. I even did the core for men, and I looked at the core for kids because I'm a knowledge geek. I love to find out more I can help my patients with. So I really kind of looked at all your material, but definitely the core smart fitness was really good. Of course, the bands. I love the
Mhm.
bands, and I really I do those every day, just to kind of wake up that core and
Yeah,
integrate.
and
But
an easy way to really feel connected and to get other parts of your body involved as well, that multitasking. And I like what you said, like it the internet has changed and online work has changed in the last since I started. And so what used to be like more of like a class that you took, we still have all the same content, but now it's in a membership model where now when you're a member, you can look at all the courses. Like you can look at
Mhm,
the courses that you need right now, but maybe there's a course like maybe you were to get pregnant again. I don't know. But
mhm,
there's the prenatal course and then there's the postpartum. Maybe you had a C-section. There's a C-section course. And you have the ability to kind of go through all of them. And then we also have those like smaller series where you can just kind of work on one little piece at a time. And I think that that's been another obstacle that we find, especially for busy moms, is time. Their time is valuable, so they just it can feel like a big investment of their time to do the whole course. But if they can do something that's like 5 minutes a day for like a week and really focus on something, that sometimes helps them realize, okay, I did that. Now I can do this next little piece. And that we can kind of put it in more bite sized pieces for people that are in those really, overwhelming seasons of life.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and
that's
so the fitness minutes that you talk about, I share that with patients a lot because we often overestimate what we're capable of. And we're in this place where we're thinking, yeah, I want to do that. And then our future self is going to sabotage us. So I usually try to tell them, okay, think of all the reasons this won't work. What are the hangups, and figure out a plan for that right now. So you need something that you can do no matter what. When you're traveling, when you're tired, when it's rainy outside, when it's hot outside. And it needs to be something that's small enough that you just need a teeny tiny bit of motivation to do. And so usually that's a teeny tiny habit. And that is basically what those fitness minutes are of, you know what, we're just going to do 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minutes of just lower body, walking in place, some kicks, some upper body, windshield wipers, circles, punches, something to kind of get things going. And then so often people will scale it up. They will continue and they'll go for 10 or 15 minutes because now they're doing it. But if you say let's do 15-minute workout, your brain is just going to balk at you and say no thanks. But if you start just with a 1 minute, then you're easily able to make that happen because it doesn't take much motivation to do something that's teeny tiny. So the
Yeah, and
fitness minute is perfect.
we're looking at sustainability, right? And consistency always wins. Consistency beats everything, whether we're doing something good or something poor. Whatever we do the most wins, right? And so what I'm always looking at, what are the obstacles? Okay, I'm have a newborn. Okay, well, how can I make newborn care mom care? I don't have time. Okay, well, you brush your teeth. You've learned how to brush your teeth every day. So when you brush your teeth, we're going to do your calf stretch and your hamstring stretch at the same time. Kind of giving those tiny habits and then habit stacking
Mhm.
is so it's such a great like life hack, right? That just helps you get outside of all of your own obstacles. Sometimes when people say their obstacles out loud, they're like I know I do. I'm like, "Oh, that was a stupid reason to not do this thing." But it doesn't matter. It was the obstacle. It was the
Right.
thing that stopped us. And so I love that you're telling them, "Okay, let's look at all the things that are gonna sabotage you and try to have a plan for that ahead of time." I do that with birth training too. Like I and not to make people afraid, but just to recognize that birth is, as you shared, very unpredictable, right? Like you could plan everything and have it in the without the doctor there or in the bathroom. And things can happen. So like what's going to help you in all the scenarios, the best you can, and trying to um you know ultimately just take ownership for this relationship with your body. And that's a big part of like trying to help our clients, and you probably feel this too, but like recognize that this is just a relationship with your body, and the symptoms that you have that come and go from birth or from an injury or from just life, are not necessarily always good or bad symptoms. It's just something your body's telling you, and how do we respond to that, so it gets better and not worse.
Exactly. When I have a lot of people that come in with back pain or knee pain, and I'll just tell them, your body is communicating with you. It's going to whisper to you quietly, and if you don't listen to it, it's going to start shouting louder. And so, just being like you talk about, being curious about what is it trying to say, and being a detective. So often I have found that I'm always putting my leg this way, or you're pressing the gas in this, or your sleeping position. Something is, it's not the whole picture, but it is contributing to the what you have going on. And so I often will encourage people to just put a mirror like in their kitchen. What is it that's causing you the problem? So your back is aching after you cook dinner. Well, put a mirror in the kitchen, and just a standalone mirror, and or have just film, and see what it is that you're doing that is contributing to that. So, what is your alignment like when you're chopping vegetables? You didn't realize it, but actually, this is what you look like. Because when you look in a mirror, you stand up, you're like, oh, everything's fine. But when you can see it in your natural habitat, what you're actually doing, you
Yeah.
can tell what's contributing. So, just trying to create that awareness. Sometimes we don't have it ourselves, but something outside can kind of give us that perspective of just I'm not going to make you 18 again by doing these things, but what you're doing is probably contributing to the pain that you're having. And so let's kind of figure out what those things are and change them.
Yeah, yeah, and then just find strategies. Awareness is 50% of the solution. When we don't know what we're doing and why we're doing it, we just keep doing it. Not
Mhm.
on purpose, but just because we don't know, right? So becoming aware, like how many of us have seen a video that somebody was taking, we're in the background, or a picture, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, is that how I stand? Oh my gosh, is that how I sit?" Like and not in a shame way, but in a, "Oh, I bet you that's why like my neck hurts because my head's out like this when I'm on my laptop, or when I'm, I don't know, watching TV or whatever, when I'm driving in the car, something that I'm doing for a long period of time, and recognizing that I do for we have so many people that work from home now, that one of the strategies I do is have a mirror in their office, on just on the side in the peripheral vision,
That's
because
great.
how people sit when they're in an office space and how they sit when they're at home are not the same thing. So having that, there's a social appropriateness to how we hold ourselves when we're in a work environment. And when our work environment is right off the kitchen, it we might not sit the same way all day long. And
Mhm.
so being aware of some of those things. You started out doing the online, and then at some point you've done a handful of e-sessions with me as well. What was the force that made you go, "Oh, I wanna talk to her in person about a couple of things." Do you remember?
Well, I'm sure you remember I sent you like loads of questions because as I was listening to things, I was like, well, what about this? Because part of it is I want to know what can help my patients. And part of it I had questions. And I also like to know kind of the science behind it and with your experience. And so yeah, I just had a lot of questions that you could specifically answer that you hadn't in the course per se.
Yeah.
So that was we did a one-time e-session and that was really helpful. And of course, you've been very gracious about communicating with me through emails and questions and things that I had. But yeah, I think I just had a lot of specific questions. You do a great job of answering things that are you've worked with so many clients that you know the questions that people are going to have,
Yeah.
and so you in your videos you do a really good job of that. But
Mhm.
I just, I like to know the why behind things. And so, yeah, I think I had a lot of,
And I think that, and that I asked that question kind of knowing that that was your answer, and wanting people to know that that's an okay reason too. Like a lot of people get the like are surprised that they get so many of their answers answered in the online program. I always tell people when they finish a week before they do the next week, they sometimes are like, I have all these questions. I probably need to do an e-session. And as much as I want to do e-sessions with people, I'm like, watch just the first couple videos of the next week
Mhm.
before you schedule it. Cause I I probably answer most of your questions because I know what they're going to ask next. But because of the way you think and the way that you are looking at so many, not just for yourself, but for your patients, but also within yourself, you really love to know the details. And I have a lot of clients. I would say 60% of my e-sessions are people that just really want to know all the details. Like they want to ask all the questions, and they learn better that way. They can apply it better when they know the why behind it, or when they have like this nuance of what about this scenario or what about that scenario. Because as you really start to embrace this stuff, like specific things that you're doing are like, okay, well, if I'm gardening in this setting, or I'm like mucking out the horse stalls, or I'm, like these different things that people are doing. They just feel like they want, and not that I can answer every question, but I'm pretty good at like asking a lot of questions and trying to get to the bottom of it for people so that they have that, or sending them to other resources. But we've had a lot of, and you send me these really long emails at times, but and I don't like, I have to take a moment, right? I don't always have time to go through the whole email. But when I do, it's really, I really actually enjoy answering it because I see where your brain's going with it, and I know that you're using it to help all these people. So it's like this, like wanting to really be well informed when you're a resource for people, I think is super valuable.
Mhm.
So I get a lot of
Well, it
people that
is one of those things where patients oftentimes are there's going to be some stumbling block to them going and doing physical therapy. And so if I can give them just a little bit in the office because they're going to see me anyway,
yes,
then just a few minutes, and then to have you as a resource to say, hey, and if you're have more questions, you're motivated. So
yeah,
oftentimes people aren't motivated. They have pain, but they're not motivated. And I'll just try to just say, okay, well, if you knew that there was something small that you could do throughout the day that would decrease your pain, would you be willing to do it? Because so often it is just comes down to breath and alignment and that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But it is work. And so people aren't always, you know,
And that's where the $15 a month membership is like such an easy, there's no commitment. That's just like an easy
easy
way.
to mhm,
Just start here and start with, there's a one on posture, there's one on breathing, there's one on gentle stretches to relieve pain. Like, so often, people will get on a podcast or will email me, and they will, tell me, that their life has changed and their pain is so much better and this and that. And when I asked, I was like, well, what if you could name 2 or 3 things that were like the really like impactful things for you, what were they? And it will be like the most random thing, like it will be like adjusting my seat in the car, putting a pillow behind my back on the couch, doing this sitting hip stretch every time I put my shoes on, stretching my hamstrings when I change the baby. It'll be like this like little nugget which was the thing they needed that helped kind of shift the tide. And I love that you're telling people that it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. It doesn't have to be like you don't have to like make this huge life change initially. You can take this small step and then it's motivating because your body feels better. You're like, "Oh, what else could be better?" You know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I get that with the little changes because one of the things that I do different now is in between patients. Sometimes when you have a really challenging person that has a lot of challenging medical issues in front of you, it feels like kind of you just trying to take that all in. And so sometimes at the end of a really long day, I would just feel like, wow, on a stressful day with a lot of really challenging, complex patients, I just felt different. And so now, in between times after those, I'll just go in my office. I lay down on the floor. I do a couple of quick stretches for about, 15, 20 seconds. I get up, I take a little breath, long lean lifted, and I don't have pain at the end of the day because I'm doing these little things throughout the day that are helping to not have that kind of stack up and just integrating it into your lifestyle. So that is something that I love about that. I was going to just share a little bit about my exercise routine
Yes.
if you
Tell
want
us
to.
what you do. Tell us what
So
you're doing currently.
because you are always good about talking about habit stacking, and that's what I'm always trying to talk with patients about. When you're doing the diaper change, then say a nursery rhyme to your kiddo and do some kind of breathing exercise for you, whatever it is. Say something you're thankful for, whatever the new habit you're wanting to tie to. Stack it to something that you're already doing. So our family does what we call truth time, where we get together and we pray and we sing, and we do some scripture. And during that time, we all work out too. So we're lifting weights as we're doing these things, and we're doing the exercises. So because we have that dedicated time already, and we've done that for 15 years, then it's easy to just plug something onto it. And so just stacking something on there. And I usually tell people the three things with the habit are: you make it tiny, you stack it to something you already do, and then you celebrate. Because when you celebrate, it makes new neuronal pathways, and you celebrate at the very beginning. So if sometimes I'll have patients that are like, well, I want to walk for 30 minutes. And I say, well, what's the minimum you can do? Could it be just like a walking video for 1 minute that you just watch? Like if you don't have any energy, because they come back in 3 months. Okay, so you told me this. How has it been going? No, nada. I haven't done anything. Okay, well, how can you do this? How can you make it tinier? So I just kind of, it's that gateway drug of what teeny tiny thing can you do to kind of start the momentum, because you're building that routine of a habit. So trying to do just that tiniest thing every day, but then celebrate as soon as you start it. You don't have to wait till you finish it. That's what you want your brain to remember. Like, this feels good because I'm doing something for my body that's going to promote just energy and longevity. So just to do those three things to
Well,
celebrate.
I
Um,
I just want I really appreciate that you said that because that is so also countercultural. Like we're so achievement like I'm not going to celebrate unless if I ran the 5 miles, then I can like if I win the thing, then but making the choice to do it should be celebrated. And
mhm.
I love that you say that because that that need for it to be one big thing is an obstacle that will keep you from doing anything.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's like it's I always tell people the best exercise, they're like, "What's the best exercise?" The best exercise is the one you will do.
That's right.
Yes,
Exactly. Yes.
it's
Don't make it
the
complicated. That's
one you
right.
will do is the best exercise. Yeah,
Absolutely. For sure. And
for
for
sure. What
for
about
those
you?
for those homeschool moms, I usually try to encourage you just to tie it to your routine you're already doing. So when I'm doing, oh, did I lose you? When I'm doing spelling, I do push-ups when I'm doing spelling. When I'm over helping a kid do piano, I do some squats. So just tying it into your routine and making it tiny because yes, we don't always have a dedicated 30 minutes to go for a walk, but I would highly encourage that because that's something that I do every day is go for a walk. Getting outside with Jesus is probably the best thing of my day.
Well, and I think also you are demonstrating to your kids what a healthy active lifestyle looks like, what a life looks like, how to be strong for all the things. And they're seeing you do this, and I think that that is really, I mean, it they watch what we do more than what we say, right? So watching you do this and live this out is really powerful too. Yeah.
Yeah, I have thought before some of the, obviously the most important thing I can give to our kids is a love for Jesus. But the exercise is just being part of your life, eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables because it's just kind of what you've grown up doing. And just those little things, being thankful every day. We take some time to be thankful. All of that stuff is more caught than taught, and so just having that be part of what your life is like, who can we serve today, how can we love each other well, those types of things are probably the focus that I'm more than academics, what we're really hoping to pass on to the kids.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I love how you're sharing how you do these in the little things. Tell us more.
Well, I think that's it. I just do try to find ways to just integrate it throughout the day. And if I'm having a hard time finding a way to make something work, I always say, observe why you fail. So look at it. Was it too big? Was it that you didn't have the routine? And make it tinier, whatever it is that's not working. And so that's how I've come up with, doing push-ups while we're doing spelling because it's something we did every day. It doesn't need a lot of my brain power. Push-ups weren't getting done, so this is something that you can figure out why it isn't working and how you can make it tiny and what you can kind of stack it to.
Another thing that I know that you do is you play with your kids physically, like you play games. You
Yes.
guys as a family play ultimate frisbee. As a family, it's one of your favorite things to do. But like other things, like you're really active in playing with them and being a part of that. And I think that that's also, caught more than taught. It's like looking at ways, and that may for somebody listening that hasn't isn't super active, and they see how active their kids are, that can feel overwhelming at first. But I'm like, even just like start with something simple like cornhole, or or like badminton, or something that does is not a lot, but that you are kind of starting to do a little bit more of. Even you're the umpire, if they're playing a game of kickball, so you're like a part of that, and you're a part of the activity. I think is really good too, because there's a community component to it. We all do more when we're doing it with someone, and we're doing it with the people that we love, whether that's like, going on, like me and my husband go on walk and talks where we'll walk and, you know, talk through all the stuff that's going on. I think those things can be really great ways to kind of just build movement into our life, and how we're moving. Our body is a use it or lose it system. And we say in therapy, like motion is lotion, like all of these things. And there's a lot of obstacles to that. So, like, try to be creative and look at what is your family, what are your loved ones already doing that you could add some movement into. And even though, like, people will say, oh, but my this is weak, or I have this pain. um Movement really does help. Activity does help, and it helps the emotional thing, what you were sharing about the weight that you were carrying from those patients. When we have teenagers, or sometimes we're carrying the weight, or our kids are going through something, or our parents are going through something, or our loved ones are going through something. There's the weight of that, and that does weigh us down and collapse us. And looking at ways that we can, push against that and open up and release some of that, so it doesn't become cumulative. That's another thing that this does, is that it kind of is, it helps us to be proactive in all of the heavy things that are going on in our life so that we can
Mhm.
manage that, and looking at that, very holistically. And this is something that we share a lot. We really are looking at our clients like through the big picture of all the things going on in their life, not just, what's medically happening, or in my case, what's physically happening, like all of those pieces, and trying to help people see that as well, I think is really valuable.
Because we actually have data that shows how beneficial that is. You can look at a biochemical level and see that gratitude journal and sleep and what you're eating, all of those things are actually it's not a pill, but it's what you need because that's actually improving the biochemical markers in a way that a medication would, but it doesn't cost anything and it doesn't have any side effects and it's only going to overlap and help in other areas of your life. And we have the science now that knows that. We intuitively thought that that was good before, but now we know community is good. Like we see what it looks like in somebody that is dealing with loneliness or lack of sleep and cortisol levels and inflammation. And it's there. It's
Yeah.
proven to be all these things that we knew were beneficial. Now we're able to really look at it at a level to be able to say, yeah, this is what our bodies need. It was created for community and for movement. And I love what you were saying about our family being outdoors and playing, because yes, we're always mandatory family fun, like let's go outside and do something. The kids love being active and soccer and basketball and frisbee and just scooters and that kind of stuff, but I have challenged them to do more just with increasing their aerobic activity with running, and so we have very limited screen time. They actually only get one movie a week. And other than that, we weren't doing any game time and they were wanting game time. And I said, how about this? How about minute for minute? For every minute that you run, you can have 1 minute of game time and it's redeemable on Saturday up to like an hour and a half. And so the kids have been super motivated to, run out. We live on a farm. And so they run out to the cow waterer and back and they have their little timers. And so they're trying to get their minutes and they do the same thing. I said, well, if you want to do push-ups or something like that, that they can redeem that. So anyway, that's kind of a motivating thing. And years ago with our teenagers that were not as excited about getting out and walking, I would put at the end of the trail, because we live, on a long walk down through the fields. At the very end of the trail, I would put something that was some kind of motivating little thing. They had to walk down there, it's a couple miles and get it. It would be under a rock and then they could come back. So just trying to kind of make it a little bit fun, and they see the benefit of it too. So often, my teenagers now, they're working out with me. Sometimes it's harder to do because you don't have the motivation, even though there's community doing it. And so just as you get stronger, you get more excited about doing those types of things. It kind of perpetuates itself. You don't want to go back to where you were, even though it was it just, you have to get that ball rolling. So just
Yeah.
trying to help them to get those habits now that hopefully they'll carry forward.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I love how you've taken all this information and you are, you're taking it to the next generation, to your kids and your family, but you're also spreading it out in the ways that is digestible to all of the patients that you get to work with. And I feel like it's really, I love teaching other medical professionals and health professionals and midwives and fitness professionals, because I feel like it just like multiplies the movement, like I think of like my life's work is to try to make this like just common knowledge for everybody, right? And so everybody that has influence over other people to help them is like, that's super exciting to me. So I really love that you're doing that, and I love that you're shared with me. Is there anything else you'd like to share with anybody before we wrap up?
No, I do want to say how thankful I am for you putting this all together. It's very bite sized, easy to integrate. And if someone is listening and has tried things in the past, this really, I think, is going to be your answer because it's being curious about the things that aren't working, strengthening the muscles that were meant to be postural muscles that you use all day long. So it's not an exercise program per se, but it's really going to change your life. So thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And if you guys have any more questions or thoughts and you want to check out the tummyteam.com, you can also reach out to me and ask me questions. We'll put some stuff in the show notes about the things that we talked about today so you'll know exactly how to find the classes we were talking about, the different strategies, and how to become a member at the Tummy Team. And just thank you for listening. And thank you so much, Hilary. And good luck to you and your family. And keep me posted on what's going on, okay?
All right. Thanks, Kelly. Bye.
Bye. Once again, thank you for joining us at the Tummy Team Journey. We would love to help you restore your core and be strong for the life you were meant to live. You can get more practical strategies at thetummyteam.com, and we'll see you next time.